I need you to hear me real good. Connection to the wrong person, place, or thing is a trap. Because some people are blessed for no other reason than who they connected to. And some people are cursed for no other reason than who they connected to. So your circle got a responsibility. You cannot afford to be connected and to be linked with people, places, or things that do not that do not hold the place in your future that God intended for them to. You got to make it up in your mind that I'm not about to forfeit my future because I'm committed to something that ain't committed to me. Family, welcome home, welcome back, welcome to your tribe. You found your village. This is Steve Saucer with the Road to Restoration podcast, and I'm so excited that you found your way here. I don't think it was an accident. I think that God has orchestrated your steps to make sure we could have this conversation here at the Road to Restoration. I am intentional about confronting the trauma of fatherlessness and making sure that we journey from trauma to triumph. So let's jump right in. Like I've always said, the greatest journey that's ever been taken always starts with the first step. And this is episode 6. And so 6 steps is always better than one. So let's jump right in. Today, our subject that we're going to discuss is chasing substitutes. Chasing substitutes. This is something that I talk extensively, exhaustively even about in my book, The Fatherless Son. And I think it's a conversation that we need to have because here's the reality: when a father is absent, he leaves a void, and usually we make mistakes trying to fill that void. And so that's where this subject comes from: chasing substitutes, and the theme is filling the void with counterfeits. And I don't know about nobody else's story, but I started trying to fill those voids at a very early age. I started trying to fill those voids as soon as I realized that I was what would be considered fatherless. And for me, that was around 6 or 7 years old when I actually became aware of it. I think I talk about it in one of the earlier episodes, how I was the only child, and my mother had my youngest sister, my favorite sister, my favorite blood sister of all blood sisters. She had her when I was 6, about to be 7, somewhere in that range, and it was a little bit of a culture shock when one day this fellow with a Jerry curl. Back in the day, Jerry curls was cool. I actually wanted a Jerry curl, but that's a whole nother podcast. I'm traumatized because my mama told me no. But that's a whole nother podcast. I actually wanted a Jerry curl. I thank God he jumped in and made sure it didn't happen, because if it did happen, there would be pictures out there somewhere with me sitting on a tree stump with some cowboy boots and a Jerry curl and a parallel striped shirt. And I thank God that that don't exist. But that's another story. But there was this fella, this Jerry curled fella, who happened to be her father, who would come around every now and then. And I remember he came to the house. We was in Arlington Courts. We was living in the projects, and he came to the house to pick her up. And I vividly remember him getting her ready, getting her bag together, and my mama was getting her bag together and getting stuff for her to go and all that kind of stuff. And I was hyper independent because my mama was superwoman. She worked 3, 4 jobs my whole life, and I mean at a time. I've told somebody before my mama was superwoman. She worked 3, 4 jobs. They thought that was like great consistency. Like, oh my God, only 3 jobs your whole life? But that ain't what I was meaning. My mama worked 3, 4 jobs at a time. And so I never really got to know her. I never really got to lean on her and develop that familial relationship because unfortunately she had to be what she had to be so that we would have somewhere to stay. And so as a result of that, I was hyper independent. I could do everything. I was a latchkey kid early on. 7, 8 years old. I'm talking about. I was waking up. Um, walking to the park by myself. My son, I waited till I was 40 to have him. He's 6 years old. I wouldn't let him, I halfway don't want him walking down the street by himself because the world we live in. But I was in whole other cities by the time I was 8 or 9 years old. So I was hyper independent. And I see them getting they stuff, getting her stuff together. They fixing bags and they fixing this and they fixing that. And so naturally, we about to go. So I start getting myself together. I want to, I want to make sure I got everything I need. They making sure she got everything she need, and so I'm gonna make sure I got everything that I need. So I start getting myself together. I'm putting my shoes on and I'm tying my shoes, cause I need to make sure I'm ready when they done. And I remember my mama looked over at me when I was hustling and bustling and putting my shoes on and getting myself fixed up, and she said, "Where you going?" Let me pause and take a sip of this Jesus juice on this one. She had the nerve to look me straight in my face and say, "Where you going?" And I said, I said, "We about to go." She said, "We ain't going nowhere." She said, "You ain't going nowhere. Put your stuff up." And I was so offended. That's a good word in today's culture. I was so offended. What you mean I ain't going nowhere? I see y'all putting stuff in her bag, and I see y'all getting her jacket ready and this and that, and you putting her in the car seat, stuffing her down. What you mean we ain't going nowhere? She said, "You ain't going nowhere. He taking her." And from that moment forward, I was crushed. I was crushed, and I realized, or I told myself, um, at that age, and I remember this. I told myself it's somebody to save everybody, but ain't nobody to save me. And that was the moment that I became aware that I was fatherless. That I became aware that I didn't have a man in my life who cared enough to come see about me. And from that moment forward, I started to try to fill the void that was, the ground was broke for that void in that moment. And I talked about it. Black mamas, they make sure that you fix your face, because your face ain't right, and she tell you to fix your face. And I don't know to this day how really you could fix your face, like in all reality. But I'm gonna tell you one thing: if a black mama tell you to fix your face, you will find a way to fix it. And that's what I did, and I learned how to be okay, even though I wasn't okay. Um, and so from that moment forward, I start chasing substitutes. I start chasing things that I thought could fill the void that caused me insecurities, and that caused me to have low self esteem, and that caused me to be addicted to approval, and that called me to search out validation. I start trying to fill those voids with things that didn't fit. It's like trying to put a square into a circle. It just didn't fit. But I was trying to make it fit. And here's the problem with filling the void with counterfeits. The pain of fatherlessness oftentimes will fuel addictions, to substances, and addictions to toxic relationships, and even addiction to work. Because guess what? It's a whole bunch of grown people with big old ages still wrestling and struggling with stuff that happened when they were children. And so I know I ain't the only one. I was writing my book, The Fatherless Son. I was writing it at 40. I was writing it at 40, and there were times it took me so long to write it because there were times I was in my office literally writing, and I would break down in tears. A grown, whole 40-year-old man. I was breaking down in tears, crying about stuff that happened to me when I was a little boy. And so I don't want for anybody to join this conversation and think I'm talking to children alone. No, this is a conversation that everybody need to have, because here's the reality: the vast majority of adults today are struggling with things that happen to them. Let me say it this way: a vast majority of adults, if they were honest, they would admit that many of the things they struggle with today are the result of something that happened to them when they were a child. And so fatherlessness will fuel addictions to substance. because usually what happens is, little kids don't start smoking cigarettes or black and miles or weed, or, drinking a cooler or whatever it is that you could get your hands on because they think it tastes good or because they think it feel good. They're doing it usually in the beginning because they want to be accepted. And so the desire of acceptance opens the door for substance. And so you begin to become addicted to some of the substances you were just using or participating in just to make people like you. And here's the reality: them people you trying to make like you, them people don't like you. I'm gonna take a sip of this Jesus. Them people don't like you. I talked about it in the last episode, approval addiction. This is the sad part about it is oftentimes we trying to get approval from people who will never approve of us. We trying to get people to like us that are committed to feeling some kind of way about us. And this didn't happen when this didn't start when we were adults. This started way back when we was little old somebodies. Okay. And it's important that we acknowledge this. It's important that we acknowledge that the void of fatherlessness can lead to addictions to substance, can lead to addictions to toxic relationships. How many young girls accepted a man that did not even deserve to know their number, did not even deserve to know their name, but accepted being in a relationship with him because they felt like that was the best love, that was the only love, or that's what real love was, or they just wanted for somebody to love them. So they would accept anything in exchange for nothing. When the truth is, it's better to be by yourself and healthy than to be connected to somebody and be abused or be taken advantage of or be manipulated. All right. And so we become addicted to these toxic relationships. And then by the time you grow up, you realize you've been dating the same person in different bodies for all these years. You've been dealing with the same old demon. He just got a different haircut in a different body for all these years. But it ain't just for women, because oftentimes men or boys that have that are void of of fathers and a father connection oftentimes develop relationships where they emulate the very thing that they hated. And sometimes it's subconscious. Because I remember when I was young and I was looking at the examples that I had in the neighborhood, the examples that I had right before me, I started to develop I talk about it in my book, from the eyes, fatherhood from the eyes of a fatherless son. I started to attribute all of the bad behavior that I saw in men that were really just grown up boys. And I believed that was actually what it meant to be a man and what it meant to be a father. And so we become addicted to being manipulators. We become addicted to, repeating the cycle that so damaged us. We become what we hated. And so we can't break free from it. So we keep getting attracted to the same type of woman in the same type of circumstance, and we essentially are falling into the trap of the generational curses that fatherlessness makes possible. But not only addicted to substances and not only addicted to toxic relationships, but what happens when you're doing what's right and you still ain't doing it right? When you are trying to fill the void of fatherlessness by being productive. I talked. I done a personality test, and I know a lot of people feel a lot of different ways about some of these personality tests. But I done a personality test, and I found out that I would be classified as a producer, as a driver, as a doer. Right, that's my personality type. I'm a doer. I'm a driver. I'm a self starter. All right. Um, and I realized through because sometimes you need God, sometimes you need therapy. Take a sip of this Jesus juice. Let's not erase either one. And I found out doing a little bit of therapy. Don't tell nobody, but I might need some more. I found out doing a little bit of therapy that usually people who have a driving, a producing, a always looking for the next accomplishment kind of personality, they're not running to the next accomplishment. They're usually running from shame, running from a feeling of not being worth it, or not being valid, or not being important. And so they develop a self-worth through what they do and what they produce. And so sometimes fatherless children grow up to be workaholics, and all they care. I have a problem. Can I be honest and tell you about me? I have a problem. Here's my problem. I have a problem slowing down long enough to celebrate the small victories. And that's important because even small victories are victories. But if you don't slow down long enough to celebrate what God has already done, what you'll do is run right past it, underappreciate it, and then everything becomes, and then you get caught in a rat race that you created for yourself. And so it ain't wrong to be disciplined. It ain't wrong to be committed. It ain't wrong to be accountable and responsible. It ain't wrong to be productive. It's not wrong to care and be passionate about your work, but it's wrong when your work becomes your drug, because you're literally just filling that void with a counterfeit. Because your work ain't your pappy, and that award ain't your pappy, and that pat on the back ain't your pappy. And make you feel good, but you need to feel good over and over again because you still don't feel good, because you're fighting the reality of how you felt when you realized you didn't have a pappy, or a pappy wasn't around to have you. And so it's dangerous when you start filling that void with counterfeits, because addiction can lead us into a rabbit hole that is hard to climb out of. And let me say this. Let me say why it's so important to acknowledge this, because this kind of behavior can be misdiagnosed as just simply bad behavior. But if you're not careful, you won't be able to realize that that bad behavior is not because that individual is a bad person. Sometimes that bad behavior is simply a cry for help. It's simply it's the symptoms of self-medicating. And people use all kind of methods to self-medicate. The worst thing you can do is be sick, end up at the hospital, and be arguing with the doctor. I know my body, doc. Well, it's the reason why you're here. If you knew so much, then you shouldn't have been there. Obviously, there are some nuances to that, but the principle is we must be very careful about self-diagnosing and self-medicating, because the truth is we made for community. That's why fathers are so vitally important, because they're the head of a community. And if the father ain't there, then the community can easily go in the wrong direction and become unhealthy and unproductive. Listen to this. When we start filling the void with counterfeits, we'll soon realize that substitutes only offer temporary relief. But what they're actually doing is deepening the emptiness long term. So those substitutes will make you feel better in the moment, but those substitutes won't ever make you better. I've said this down through the years. I said I'm intentional about really pouring into men. I care about that. That means something to me, and I'm passionate about it because of I am being what I wish I had. And I say all the time, blaming other people might make you feel better, but it will never make you better. And so sometimes we've got to take personal inventory to realize that some of this stuff that we're using and we're running to fill the void that fatherlessness has caused, it might make us feel better in the moment. I'm talking about some of the stuff that we do, because we don't have to go into the specifics, because I'm sure you got a whole list that you don't want nobody to read off. And not only do you have a list that you don't want nobody to read off, there's another list of commendable things you've done that are also see, because you can do the right thing but not do the right thing right. What if somebody say, what you mean by that? Let me take a sip of this juice. If you saying what you mean by that, just put it in the comments. Listen, there's a wrong way to do the right thing. In other words, if you're doing what's right but your motives ain't right. See, because The truth of the matter is, what's more important than what you do is why you did it. If why you did it is not pure, what you do don't even matter. And so, if you have the kind of personality that you love bomb people, you just love on people, you just do what's right. You are generous and a giving, and that's who you are. You a lover and a hugger. But in all actuality, you're doing that in hopes that somebody gonna love you back. Let me help you. You traveling down a rabbit hole, because here's the reality: when you approach what you give from the basis of what your gift can get you in return, you setting yourself up for failure, because maybe you loving on somebody who don't have the capacity to love you the way you loving them. Maybe you giving something to somebody who don't have the capacity to give back to you anything of equal value. And now you've set yourself up to be hurt and to be harmed, all because you're trying to substitute and trying to offer counterfeit value to a void that only a father can fill. And here's the reality, because I gotta give us a solution, because I don't want us to miss this. But before I start talking about this solution, let me say this. Before I start talking about this solution, this is important. This is important for you to understand substitutes, whether it's a person, a place, or a thing. It might make you feel better in the moment, but it will lead to a deeper level of emptiness long term. Here's why I need you to understand that: because connection to the wrong thing, connection to the wrong people, connection to the wrong place and the wrong thing. Listen to me. Connection to the wrong thing is a trap. Hear me. I need you to hear me real good. Connection to the wrong person, place, or thing is a trap, because some people are blessed for no other reason than who they connected to. And some people are cursed for no other reason than who they connected to. So your circle got a responsibility. You cannot afford to be connected and to be linked with people, places, or things that do not that do not hold the place in your future that God intended for them to. You got to make it up in your mind that I'm not about to forfeit my future because I'm committed to something that ain't committed to me. Being loyal to people who ain't loyal to you is not loyalty, it's self-sabotage. But here's the solution. If I could talk about this solution, here's the solution. Let me help you. The solution is all about your own mentality. And here's the mentality I want you to take. You are who God made you, even if you're not it yet. You are exactly who God made you to be, even if you're not it yet. Let me say it this way. The age-old question has been asked: are men and women born leaders, or are they developed into a leader? And the answer is unequivocally both. You are born who you're supposed to be, but you must be discipled through connection. Let me take a sip of this. I need to take a pause. Listen, the Bible says, I knew you before you were in your mother's womb. And so, in other words, the God of glory had relationship with you. He invested gifts and talents in you. He made you special and uniquely you before you were ever even conceived. And so when you got here, the capacity to change the world was already there. When you got here, the capacity to change the world was already there. But here's the reality: that capacity needs to be developed, it needs to be discipled, it needs to be matured. You need a journey partner. You need somebody, hear me, if they have not been where you've been and are not where you want to go, then they don't need to be your journey partner. Ain't that right, June? Told you. If they have not been with, because listen, I don't want a nurse to take care of me that ain't never been sick. Because any nurse that come into your room that has never experienced sickness, they're not going to have the empathy. They're not going to have the compassion. They're not going to handle you carefully. They're not going to handle you gently. They're going to do whatever. They're going to be rough. Come on now, move over. Just all you got to do is, they don't understand what they don't understand the pain and the shame that comes with not being able to take care of yourself. And so because I've been in your shoes, because I've been where you are, because I've experienced the plague of fatherlessness, I know now that the way out of it is not by substituting that void with counterfeits and with people, places, and things that don't really add value to me. I know now that the answer is in me. You are who you've been waiting on. All you got to do is be who God called you to be. Be the best version of yourself. If you ever want to correct the wrongs that have happened to you in your life, it don't have nothing to do with other people. You don't have to confront other people. You don't have to worry about anything outside of your control, because what you can control will change your life. And so hear me, and I want to say this, and I want to say this with everything that's in me. This book right here, you see, I got these notes in it. I got these notes in it because I use this book as a method to attempt to help as many young men and women, boys and girls as I possibly can. He gave you the thumbs up, so you know the book fire. This book right here, I want you to get it because I believe that it is a tool that will help you grow from trauma to triumph. Here's the reality. My story is not unique. My story, let me say this, I'm sorry. Fatherlessness is not unique to me, but my story is unique. But I believe that my story, along with so many others, can be used in principle to help you come out of what trauma you're in. And it does not even have to be the trauma of fatherlessness. Here's the reality. All trauma is traumatizing. Whether it's fatherlessness, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's whatever it might be. I need you to understand that you might have lived in trauma, and you might have lived there for so long you normalized it, and so you learned how to function in dysfunction. You learned how to be functional in the midst of dysfunction. Ain't that right, my boy? But I don't want you to normalize dysfunction. I want you to understand that you can come out of it. And if you come out of it, then you owe it to the next person to reach back and pull them out too. And so if you want to take this journey with me, you can do that in a couple different ways. I want you to I want you to obviously like this video. I want you to obviously subscribe and turn your notifications on. But more than that, I want you to get down in that link in that description and hit that link to become a journey partner. I believe that community matters, and it takes a village not just to raise a child, but it takes a village to take care of those that are in the village. And not only do I want you to go ahead and hit that link, I want you to jump over to my website and I want you to get that book, because I believe that book will help you. I believe that book will make you, that will help you to see things different. And when you see things different, you can move different. All right. And so we're going to stop chasing substitutes and filling voids with counterfeits. And we're going to be who God called us to be. I love y'all, man. And I can't wait to see y'all next week. This episode 6, the greatest journey that's ever been taken, always started with one step. But this is episode 6, and 6 is always better than 1. So I can't wait to see y'all in the Patreon community. Come and talk to me. And until the next time.